The rain battered the windows of the small Seattle apartment, but inside, my heart was already drowning. I was 24, staring at a TV screen where Mayor Harold Vance, the city's untouchable patriarch, declared me Elliot Carter, a threat to family values. My crime? Being openly gay in a city he swore to cleanse of people like me. It was 2023, and I just moved to Seattle, chasing a dream to teach art at a community college. I'd grown up in a small Idaho town, where whispers about my identity followed me like shadows. Seattle was supposed to be freedom, a place where I could breathe, love, and exist without apology. But Mayor Vance's face, stern and unyielding on the news, told a different story. His Family First campaign had ignited a firestorm, with rallies against queer rights drawing thousands. My name had somehow become a lightning rod after I organized a small pride event at the college. Elliot Carter, he'd said, pointing at the camera, is leading our youth astray. I wasn't a leader. I was just a guy who wanted to paint and love whoever my heart chose. The phone buzzed, snapping me back. It was a text from my best friend, Lila, a fiery 25-year-old barista with a knack for finding trouble. Turn off the damn TV. Meet me at the Rusty Anchor. You need a drink. I sighed, grabbed my jacket, and stepped into the storm. The bar was a dive, tucked in Capitol Hill, Seattle's queer heart. Lila was already there, her pink hair glowing under the neon lights, a beer in hand. Vance is a fossil, she said, sliding me a glass. He's all talk. You're stronger than his noise. I wanted to believe her, but the mayor's words clung to me like damp clothes. That night I met Sarah Vance. She walked into the bar like she owned it, confident, sharp, with auburn hair cascading over a leather jacket. She was 26, the mayor's only daughter, and the last person I expected to see in a place like this. Whispers followed her too, but for different reasons. She was Seattle's golden girl, a lawyer who just won a high-profile case for a local charity. Everyone knew her face from the papers, but here she was, ordering a whiskey neat and scanning the room like she was searching for something or someone. Our eyes met across the bar. She smiled and I froze. Lila nudged me. Go talk to her, idiot. I didn't. I wasn't ready to step into another spotlight, especially not with the mayor's daughter. But Sarah had other plans. She slid into the booth across from me, her gaze steady. You're Elliot Carter, aren't you? Her voice was warm, not accusing. I nodded, bracing for a lecture. Instead, she leaned closer. I saw your pride event. It was brave. My father, he's wrong about you. I didn't know what to say. The mayor's daughter, defending me? It felt like a trap, but her eyes were sincere, flickering with something like defiance. We talked for hours about art, justice, and the weight of living under someone else's judgment. She told me about growing up under her father's shadow, expected to be perfect, to marry the right man, to uphold his legacy. I'm not that person, she said softly. I don't know who I am yet, but I know I'm not his puppet. By the time we left the bar, the rain had stopped. Sarah walked me to my bus stop, her laughter cutting through the damp air. You're not what he says you are, Elliot. Don't let him define you. Her words were a lifeline, but I couldn't shake the feeling that getting close to her would pull me into a deeper storm. Over the next few weeks, Sarah became a constant in my life. We'd meet for coffee at odd hours, dodging photographers and her father's spies. She was funny, fierce, and unafraid to challenge me. You're too quiet sometimes, she'd tease, tossing a sketchbook at me. Draw what you're feeling. Let it out. I did, my canvases filled with vibrant colors. Blues for hope, reds for anger, golds for the moments I felt alive with her. But the city wasn't kind. Vance's campaign grew louder, his rhetoric sharper. My Pride event had sparked a movement, and now protests, both for and against queer rights, clogged Seattle's streets. My students started getting harassed, and I got death threats slipped under my apartment door. Lila urged me to fight back, to organize another event, but I was tired. I just want to live, I told her one night, my voice breaking. Why is that so hard? Sarah was my anchor, but she was struggling too. Her father had announced her engagement to James Whitaker, a slick real estate heir who fit his vision of family values. Sarah hated him. It's not my choice, she confessed over late-night tacos at a food truck. Dad thinks it'll lock in his voters. I feel like a prop. I wanted to tell her to run, to break free, but I saw the fear in her eyes. Fear of losing her family, her place, her safety. One night, after a particularly brutal rally where Vance called me a disease, Sarah showed up at my apartment, soaked from the rain. I can't do this anymore, she said, tears mixing with the water on her face. I'm done pretending. She told me she'd been questioning her own identity, that she'd always felt drawn to women but buried it under her father's expectations. You make me want to be honest, Elliot, with myself, with the world. I held her as she cried, my own heart racing. We were two people caught in a city tearing itself apart. But in that moment, we were enough. I didn't know it then, but that night was the start of something bigger. A fight neither of us could avoid. Spring in Seattle brought cherry blossoms and chaos. Mayor Vance's campaign was in full swing, his billboards plastered across the city with slogans like, "Protect our future." My face was on some of them, photoshopped into shadowy corners, a villain in his narrative. I was 25 now, and the weight of his hatred was crushing. My art classes were half empty. Parents had pulled their kids after Vance's latest speech called me a corrupting influence. I wanted to quit, to leave Seattle, but Sarah wouldn't let me. You're not running, she said one afternoon, dragging me to a park near Lake Washington. The sun glinted off the water, and she handed me a sketch pad. Draw something beautiful. For you, not for them. I sketched her instead, her sharp jawline, her fierce eyes, the way she seemed to hold the world at bay. She laughed when she saw it. Your trouble, Elliot Carter. But her smile faded when she got a call from her father. I have to go. James is coming over for dinner. Again. James Whitaker was a constant shadow. He was 30, polished, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sarah told me he was kind enough in private, but he was her father's choice, not hers. He talks about our future like it's a done deal, she said, her voice tight. Kids, a big house, me smiling at his side while he runs for office someday. I'd rather die. I didn't know how to help her. I was barely holding myself together. Lila, ever the instigator, had other ideas. She'd started a group called Seattle Stands, a coalition of queer activists and allies pushing back against Vance's policies. She roped me into designing posters for their first big rally. You're an artist, use it. Fight with what you've got. I hesitated, but Sarah backed her up. You're not alone in this, she said. I'll be there too, even if I have to sneak out. The rally was set for a Saturday in Pioneer Square. I spent nights painting banners, bold rainbows, clenched fists, words like, love is not a crime. The morning of the event, the square was packed. Hundreds showed up, from teens in glitter to retirees waving flags. Lila was at the mic, her voice booming. We're here because this city is ours too. The crowd roared, and for the first time in months, I felt alive. Then the counter-protesters arrived. They carried signs with Vance's face and quotes from his speeches. "Keep Seattle pure," one read. My stomach churned as they chanted, their voices drowning out ours. I saw Sarah in the crowd, wearing a baseball cap to hide her face. She grabbed my hand, her grip tight. "Don't look at them. Look at us." But the tension snapped when a bottle flew from their side, shattering near a group of kids. Chaos erupted: shouts, shoves, police sirens. Sarah pulled me behind a food cart as cops stormed in. That night, the news spun the rally as a violent uprising. My name was everywhere again, this time as the instigator. Vance held a press conference, his face grim. This is what happens when people like Elliot Carter are allowed to spread their agenda. I watched it at Lila's apartment, my hands shaking. Sarah was there too, her phone buzzing with angry texts from her father. "He knows I was there," she whispered. "He's furious." "What did you tell him?" I asked. "Nothing yet, but I'm done lying." She stood, pacing. "I'm going to tell him the truth. About me. About who I am." My heart sank. Coming out to Mayor Vance was like walking into a lion's den. I tried to talk her out of it, but she was resolute. "I'm not ashamed, Elliot. Not anymore." The next day, Sarah went to her father's office. I waited at a cafe nearby, sketching nervously to keep my hands busy. When she came back, her face was pale, her eyes red. "He didn't yell," she said quietly. "He just looked at me like I was a stranger, said I was confused, that I needed to fix this before the wedding." The wedding was 6 months away, and James was pushing for a big public event to boost Vance's campaign. Sarah was unraveling, and I didn't know how to hold her together. That night, we sat on my apartment's fire escape, the city glittering below. "What if I can't do this?" she asked, her voice small. "What if I'm not strong enough?" I took her hand, my own fears clawing at me. "You're stronger than you know," I said, "and you're not alone." But even as I said it, I felt the storm closing in. Vance wasn't just a man, he was a machine, and we were caught in its gears. Summer burned through Seattle, and so did the tension. Mayor Vance's campaign was relentless, his speeches now broadcast live on every local channel. My name was a regular feature, a punching bag for his rhetoric. I'd lost my job at the college, officially for budget cuts, but everyone knew the truth. I was 25, unemployed, and living off savings in a city that felt more hostile by the day. Lila kept me afloat, sneaking me free coffee and dragging me to Seattle Stands meetings. "We're not done," she'd say, her eyes blazing. "Vance doesn't get to win." Sarah was spiraling. Her father had doubled down, booking a grand venue for her wedding to James. She showed me the invitations, cream cardstock, gold lettering, her name next to his like a prison sentence. "I can't breathe when I think about it," she told me one night at a quiet diner in Fremont. Her hands shook as she tore a napkin to shreds. "I told him I'm queer, Elliot. He said it's a phase, that I'll come to my senses once I'm married." I wanted to scream, to storm Vance's office myself, but I knew it would only make things worse. Instead, I threw myself into art. I started painting murals around Capitol Hill, bright, defiant images of queer joy, of resistance. One, on the side of a bookstore, showed 2 men kissing under a rainbow sky. Another, near a bus stop, had a woman in a suit holding a pride flag. People stopped to take pictures, to leave flowers or notes. "Thank you," one read. "This makes me feel seen." But not everyone was a fan. My murals were vandalized. Slurs spray-painted across them, glass bottles smashed at their bases. Each time, I'd repaint, my hands shaking with rage and grief. Sarah helped when she could, sneaking away from her father's watchful eye. One night, under a street lamp, we repainted a mural together. A silhouette of two hands clasped, one painted with the trans flag, the other with the rainbow. "This is what I want my life to be," she said, paint smudged on her cheek. "Free. Real." I nodded, but my heart ached. Her wedding was 3 months away, and James was everywhere. On her arm at galas, in her father's speeches, in her nightmares. Lila had a plan, though. "We need something big," she said at a Seattle Stands meeting. "A protest at City Hall, right before the wedding. We'll show Vance he can't silence us." The room buzzed with excitement, but I felt dread. Protests hadn't worked. They'd only made things worse. Still, I agreed to design the banners. Sarah promised to be there, even if it meant defying her father openly. The protest was set for a Friday in August. City Hall loomed like a fortress, its steps packed with hundreds of us. Queer folks, allies, families. Lila led the chants, her voice raw with passion. "Love is not your weapon," we shouted. Sarah was there, her face bare of any disguise, holding a sign that read, "I am not your pawn." I stood beside her, my heart pounding. The crowd was electric, but so was the opposition. Counter-protesters gathered across the street, their signs uglier than before. "No Sodom in Seattle," one read. I felt sick. Then it happened. A man from their side, burly, red-faced, charged forward, ripping Sarah's sign from her hands. Before I could react, he shoved her, and she stumbled into me. The crowd surged, and suddenly we were in the middle of a brawl. I pulled Sarah behind me, my pulse racing. "Stay back," I yelled, but she was already shouting, her voice fierce. "You don't get to touch me." Police swarmed, batons raised, and I lost sight of her in the chaos. When it was over, Sarah was gone. I found her later at the hospital, a bruise blooming on her cheek. "I'm fine," she said, but her eyes were hollow. "Dad's people took me home. He's locking me down until the wedding." I wanted to hug her, to tell her we'd find a way out, but she stopped me. "Don't come near me for a while, Elliot. It's not safe." Her words cut deeper than any bruise. I went home and painted until my hands bled. Angry slashes of red and black, a canvas of my fear and fury. Lila called, her voice urgent. "We're not stopping, Elle. We're planning something bigger. You in?" I didn't answer. I didn't know if I had anything left to give. Fall painted Seattle in oranges and golds, but my world was gray. I was 26 now, living in a haze of grief and defiance. Sarah had gone silent, her phone disconnected, her social media dark. Rumors swirled that Vance had sent her to a retreat to prepare for the wedding. Now just a month away. I pictured her trapped, her fire dimmed, and it broke me. Lila was relentless, planning a new protest, a wedding crash to disrupt the ceremony. "We'll make a statement," she said. "For Sarah, for you, for all of us." I nodded, but my heart wasn't in it. I just wanted Sarah back. I kept painting, my murals spreading like wildfire. Capitol Hill was a gallery now, each wall a scream against Vance's hate. One night, I painted a portrait of Sarah, her face fierce, her eyes alight, a pride flag draped over her shoulders. I did it in secret, on the side of an old warehouse, knowing it might be destroyed by morning. But when I finished, a stranger, a teenage girl with blue hair, saw it and cried. "That's what I want to be," she said. "Brave like her." I didn't feel brave. I felt like a ghost. Lila's plan came together slowly. Seattle Stands had grown, pulling in allies from across the city. teachers, artists, even a few rogue council members. The wedding was set for a grand estate in Bellevue, a fortress of wealth and power. Lila wanted to surround it with protesters, to flood social media with our message. "We'll show the world who Sarah really is," she said. I designed the banners, my hands steady but my heart racing. This wasn't just a protest, it was a rescue mission. A week before the wedding, I got a message. Not a text, not a call, but a note slipped under my door, written in Sarah's sharp handwriting. "Elliot, I'm okay. Don't give up on me. S." I clutched it like a lifeline, rereading it until the words blurred. Lila saw it and grinned. "She's still fighting. So are we." We doubled down, planning every detail: banners, chants, even a flash mob to draw attention. But I couldn't shake the fear that we were walking into a trap. The night before the protest, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my fire escape, sketching Sarah's face from memory. My phone buzzed, a private number. I answered, and her voice came through, soft but urgent. "Elliot, don't do it. The protest. It's too dangerous." I froze. "Sarah? Where are you?" She didn't answer. "They're watching me. If you show up, they'll arrest you. Or worse." The line went dead, and I sat there, heart pounding. Was it really her? Or was it Vance playing games? I told Lila, but she was undeterred. "We're doing this," she said. "For her. For you." I didn't argue. Couldn't abandon Sarah, not now. The morning of the wedding, we gathered at a park near the estate. Hundreds of us, armed with signs and courage. My banner read, "Sarah, you are enough." I held it high, my hands trembling. The estate was a fortress, security guards, police, even private drones buzzing overhead. Vance wasn't taking chances. We marched, our voices rising. "Love is not a crime. Sarah, we see you." The gates loomed ahead, and I braced for chaos. But then, a figure appeared at the entrance. Sarah, in a white dress, her face pale but her eyes burning. She wasn't running to us. She was running from something. The crowd parted, and I dropped my banner, sprinting to her. "Elliot!" she gasped, grabbing my arms. "I can't do it. I can't marry him." Before I could respond, security swarmed. They grabbed her, pulling her back toward the estate. I lunged forward, shouting her name, but a guard slammed me to the ground. The last thing I saw before the world went black was Sarah's face, screaming my name. I woke up in a holding cell, my head throbbing, my wrists sore from cuffs. The protest had been shut down, and Lila was in the cell next to mine, her face bruised but defiant. "We made noise, Elle," she said through the bars. "The whole city's talking." I didn't care. All I could think about was Sarah. Her face as they dragged her away, her voice screaming my name. I didn't know if she was safe, if she'd been forced into the wedding, or worse. We were released the next morning. No charges but a warning to stay out of trouble. Lila drove me home, her silence heavy. My apartment felt empty, the walls covered in half-finished sketches of Sarah, of pride flags, of a city I no longer recognized. The news was relentless. Clips of the protest, of Sarah being pulled back into the estate, of Vance's furious statement. "My daughter is safe, and this city will not bow to chaos." I wanted to believe she was safe, but I didn't trust him. Days passed with no word. Painted, I paced, I waited. Lila kept Seattle stands alive, organizing smaller vigils, but I couldn't face them. I was 26, and I'd lost everything. My job, my hope, my best friend. Then, a week after the protest, another note arrived, slipped under my door. "Meet me at the pier. Midnight. S." My heart leapt, but doubt gnawed at me. Was it a trick? I didn't care. I had to know. The pier was quiet, the water lapping against the wood. Sarah was there, alone, wrapped in a dark coat. She looked thinner, her eyes shadowed, but when she saw me, she ran to me, hugging me so tight I couldn't breathe. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know what else to do." She told me everything. How her father had locked her in the estate, how James had tried to talk sense into her, how she'd refused to say the vows. "I ran," she said. "I'm done being his pawn." We sat on the pier, the city lights flickering across the water. She told me she was staying with a friend, hiding from her father's reach. "I'm figuring out who I am, Elliot. For real this time." I told her about the protest, about the murals, about the girl who'd cried at her portrait. She smiled, tears in her eyes. "You're my family," she said, "more than he ever was." But Vance wasn't done. The next day, he announced a new policy, stricter laws against public disturbances, aimed squarely at us. Seattle Stands was labeled a threat, and my murals were ordered painted over. Lila was furious, planning another rally, but I was exhausted. "What's the point?" I asked her. "He's too powerful." She grabbed my shoulders. "The point is us, Elle. We exist. We fight. We love. That's what he's afraid of." Sarah and I started meeting in secret, plotting our next move. She was done hiding, done running. "I want to come out," she said one night, her voice steady. "Not just to him, to everyone." I admired her courage, but I was terrified. Vance had the city in his grip, and we were ants under his boot. Still, I promised to stand by her no matter what. We planned a public statement, a video simple but raw, where Sarah would tell her truth. I filmed it in an abandoned warehouse, my murals as the backdrop. She looked into the camera, her voice clear. "I'm Sarah Vance, and I'm queer. My father wants to erase people like me, but I won't let him. Love is not a sin. It's who we are." We uploaded it to every platform, knowing it would spark a firestorm. And it did. The video went viral overnight. By morning, Sarah Vance was trending, and Seattle was alight with debate. Some called her a hero, others called her a traitor. Mayor Vance issued a statement, his voice cold. "My daughter is unwell and needs privacy." But the city wasn't listening. Protests erupted again, bigger this time, with Sarah's face on every sign. My murals, once painted over, were being repainted by strangers, kids, artists, even shop owners. Capitol Hill glowed with color, with defiance. Sarah and I hid out at Lila's apartment, watching the chaos unfold. I was 26, Sarah 28, and we were at the center of a storm we'd started. "Did we do the right thing?" she asked, her voice trembling. I took her hand. "You did. You're free now." She smiled, but it was fragile. Vance wasn't just her father, he was a machine, and machines don't stop. He proved it 2 days later. Police raided Seattle Stand's headquarters, arresting Lila and others on flimsy charges. My apartment was searched, my paintings confiscated. Sarah got a call from her mother, begging her to come home, to fix things. "She's scared," Sarah said, tears in her eyes. "She thinks Dad will lose everything because of me." I didn't know what to say. I was scared too. But the city was changing. People were talking on X, in coffee shops, at town halls. A council member, a quiet ally, proposed a resolution to protect queer rights. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. Sarah and I kept meeting, planning, painting. We were bruised, but we were alive. One night, she showed me a letter she'd written to her father. Not to send, but to heal. "I told him I love him," she said, "but I love myself more." The wedding date came and went, but there was no ceremony. James Whittaker vanished from the headlines, and rumors swirled that he'd left Seattle. Vance's campaign faltered, his polls slipping as the city rallied around Sarah. She wasn't just his daughter anymore. She was a symbol. And me? I was still Elliot Carter, the guy who painted and loved and refused to disappear. A month later, Sarah invited me to a small gathering in a garden near Green Lake. It wasn't a wedding, but a celebration of her, of us, of a city fighting for its soul. The sun was setting, casting gold over the crowd. Lila was there, out on bail, her pink hair brighter than ever. Strangers hugged me, thanking me for the murals, for standing up. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a brother. Sarah took my hand, pulling me into a hug. "You're my family, Elliot," she said, her voice breaking. "My brother." Tears stung my eyes as the crowd cheered, their voices drowning out the ghosts of Vance's hate. We weren't done fighting, maybe we never would be. But in that moment, under the golden light, we were enough. Seattle didn't change overnight. Vance was still mayor, his policies still sharp. But the city was waking up, its heart beating louder. My murals stayed, each one a promise. Sarah was finding her place, her truth. And I was painting again, not just for me, but for all of us. We were here. We were loud. And we were loved.